Hey guys, Brent Hull, happy Wednesday. Hope you're not getting sick of these design videos. Let me know what you think. Today I'm working on a really beautiful house, a house that is lovely, but started looking a little monotonous, a little static. And so I've tweaked some things, changed some stuff up, given it a little more life. Let me know what you think. Come join me. All right, so here's an interesting house because this is a very elegant house. This is a very beautiful house. You don't really necessarily need me for helping here, but the homeowner was feeling like it just wasn't quite right. He wanted me to look at it and kind of give them some ideas. And so their interest was kind of a low country house. Think South Carolina, not a city house, right? Not a house that was in a city block, right? This would have been a house that was out in the country. So it's a little bit diminished, right? It's not super fancy. There's not a high level of carving or detail. Knowing that, right? Then we begin to tweak and kind of fix based on historic precedent. Now, this is the front and this is the back, okay? And again, you see a little bit of, I don't know if you see it, but is that we begin to have a monotony of detailing here, a monotony of roof lines, a monotony of siding here. And so that's my note, is there an opportunity to adjust materials? It's too uniform and static. And so one, I think it's beautiful. By the time all these different levels are laid out, you may not notice it as much, but the changes that I'm gonna make are, one, dressing down the formality of this house, and then two, introducing a narrative or a story so that it looks like it's grown over time. Because right now, this was all built, one big house, all these different parts and pieces at the same time. The way to, create that story and the way to, change that messaging is by a change in materials, and you'll see kind of what I've done here. The other thing you notice is that they've got these funny little details here where they're kind of a bracket that's coming down underneath this eave that I don't really understand. There is this decorative detail right here, banding that runs around. I don't like this. I just think that's too high style Georgian, and it isn't really right for a low country house. And so I'm thinking this is a little bit more Greek revival. It's 1820s. It needs to have some of that movement and character. Notice too, and I pointed it out in one of my other videos, what's happening right there. Okay, that if we have traditional windows, these jambs are back to back. And so they really need to be, that 4, 5, 6 inches apart so that we can have that mull cover so that we can kind of have some authenticity. And so I feel like, these side elements, okay, are really strong compared to this element, even though we have a pediment and a portico here. So what I did was I've introduced basically a material change and an architectural change, in that you have, okay, in this kind of that main porch level, you do have columns on the outside here kind of defining this element right here. And so what I've done is, instead of having those same columns come all the way across here, the same elevation, I've introduced a really strong Greek revival, porch here, and I'm showing it two different ways. I'm showing it with a little pediment opportunity or with an attic balustrade. I've definitely taken out that decorative piece, right? I've definitely taken out that, I think it's a Greek key or something that's in there. It's just, wouldn't have happened. And it certainly wouldn't have happened up there above the frieze. It would have happened in the frieze if it was going to happen anywhere. And I've taken out those little decorative brackets that come in here. Notice too that I've got this racing metal roof, switching back to, and this hyphen and this connector kind of to maybe a shake roof, and then back to a racing metal roof here. I'm playing with materials. I've gone with 2 strong, really big, tall windows that might open all the way up versus a pairing of 3 windows. I've taken out that the transoms and all this other stuff. In my mind, that's like a 1920s window arrangement. Maybe a colonial revival kind of arrangement. I don't find that in historic precedent. So I've gone with windows that are broken up. I've taken out those transoms. I think by doing that, and I've given us more of a Greek Revival entry here, strengthening these columns so that this is dominant, and dressing that down, I have created an elevation of materiality, an elevation of detail, so that this house makes more sense. And if they like this, we will kind of carry those around to the other side. Plank boards here, wood siding here, maybe there's stucco on this element right here, maybe that's brick. By changing those elements, by changing those details, I think this has a little bit more life by mixing up the amount of materials that are going into it and the way that each of these doors is addressed, right? It's a lot. And so fixing these things, right, and changing the way these porches come out, changing the way maybe this pediment works, changing the monotony of all these doors across here, all will be things that will help the life of this building and just its visual impact and its story, this narrative, because what you'll be doing is essentially this area, well, this one got built, 20 years after this main piece, and this one got added 50 years later. So even though they're complementary to what's going on here, they're also different. So that's how you fix this thing. I think that this works better. You guys can tell me if you agree or not. This was a fun one. And here it is, guys. I'm fixing something that's really pretty good. And so I'm hoping I'm improving it. This traditional design and getting the traditional design right really is in all these small little details to make it go from good to great. Okay, guys, so fixing some monotonous details, right? Fixing some details that needed a little bit of life and changing the architectural story, right? By putting that Greek Revival entry on there with those strong columns, it really kind of changed the dynamic of that entry. So let me know what you think. I'm Brent Hull. Thanks for watching.